But if you had just allowed the accommodation, you would have saved money doubly, right? Because you save money by not having to hire somebody in the future, and you're having an employee who's efficient, who's probably going to be loyal. That's my experience. Every place that provides me accommodations, I tend to be way more loyal to, because they're, just doing a little bit for me is a lot.
Together with friends along the way, united we're strength to face the day. We're together and now we're here to say, united we will be the change.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Above and Beyond the Accessibility and Inclusion podcast, counting down the 12 days before the Barrier-Free Ontario AODA takes place, January 1st, 2025. Joined as always by Maddy Dever. Maddy, how are you, friend?
I am present. We've gotten through the early days of this 12 days, and the interesting thing on the forecast for the rest of the year, because today's day, we're doing day 4. I think we're actually doing day 4 on day 4, which is yes, we're doing day 4 on day 4. We're recording day 4 on day 4. It's like, it's a little sneak behind the mirrors here. And the forecast in my area, where I live in Smith Falls, was just slightly west of the grand city of Ottawa. For the rest of the year, it's going to be above zero.
That's
which is great for me. And we're going to have a whole bunch of rain. It's going to hopefully wipe away the snow, so I might actually get access to my wheelchair in the next in AODA.
Well, that's always a plus. Pun intended.
Yes. So is my weight.
What's that?
So is my weight. A plus. Actually, my weight's more of a plush.
Cushion for the pushing. I love that.
Absolutely. In case I fall, there's more for me to land.
That's it. We have our own airbags.
Exactly.
Okay.
More of a butt bag, but yeah. We always say barriers. We're talking about barriers, not derriers. I got it. Yeah.
Okay, so Maddy, on the 4th day before the AODA in Ontario becomes barrier-free, the Ford government did not give to me equitable employment. Disclosure. Just let's start off, Maddy, with your thoughts.
Well, I mean, let's bite off disclosure first. Disclosure is what do we as people with disabilities need to disclose in order to get our needs met in any workplace. We're talking about workplace today. It expands to everything, but we're talking about workplace. So what is the minimum that we need to share about our personal lives and our personal health in order to actually get an accommodation in our workplace, so that we can function equitably to the rest of the staff and be able to do the job that we are hired to do. And it's, and really, there's my own experience. So I'm multiply disabled, right? So the easy visual thing is my motor disabilities. I cannot walk, and I have issues with my hands. So I go around in a motorized wheelchair, because I can't use a manual one, because I can't use both hands to steer the wheels. So I need to be able to get around. So it's very clear from looking at me what some of my needs might be. So I don't have to disclose a lot, because the needs are apparent. Now, when it comes to autism, that's a whole other kettle of fish. It has been a condition with a lot of stigma in the past, and still in the present, and a lot of misconceptions. And how, the needs that I experience are, for example, I need, my sensory environment. I can't have things dim. I need things lit up pretty well. And I can't handle a lot of talking, a lot of noise around me, so I need to use my AirPod Pros or some sort of noise canceling things so that I can actually survive in the world. And I need things given to me, like questions or presentations given to me ahead of time, so that I can process it in my own speed and be able to not be worried by a lot of talking at the same time I'm trying to see something. So those needs are a little harder to describe without sharing that I'm autistic. I have been a very out and proud autistic, and I've been trying to, remove some of the stigma and stereotypes by talking about it and by even in my workplace. But it's not always easy. But for most people in most workplaces, how much do you share is a real important distinction, because it's not easy. It is not easy to, in a world that doesn't see differences very well. when you're asking for an accommodation, you're asking people to do something different. Whether it's a small thing or a big thing, it affects people that are on the receiving end the same way. It's like, I need to change. What's it going to cost me? I'll throw it to you now.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about an accommodation, Maddie, as well, you've got to also understand that what may work for Johnny may not work for Jill, for example. And when you're speaking to your own accommodations, you're speaking to what works for you as an individual. You're speaking to things that will work to allow you to do the job to the best of your abilities. And while while others may seem that there's negotiation involved, there really isn't. It's a real non-negotiable thing because we know what works best for us. And and this is when it gets kind of harder when you go through a back and forth in a negotiation, which for all intents and purposes it shouldn't, because all things are easily made accessible with our own accommodations. And the cost to employ a person with a disability in Canada, 90% of us, the cost to the employer is $500 or less,
Yeah.
which really is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah. And I think that there's a misconception that accommodations are going to cost money. So, okay. So there are a few things that can cost, like if you're working in a retail store or want to work in a retail store, but it's not, the front door is not accessible. Yes. In that case, accommodating is going to be a little bit more expensive, but that's really like the front door barrier is probably the most expensive barrier, and everything else. Once you're in a building, the cost of accommodations generally tends to be very negligible, like the under $500 in the 90% of the time.
I mean,
It's the front door barrier, I think, that people get stuck in their mind. The attitude that they have is that the barrier is too big, either in money or in time. People tend to not like change.
No,
It doesn't matter if they acknowledge that their existing environment is horrible, but change is harder, and that's where we talked about the attitude barrier before. But attitude plays a lot in this, but they don't understand that there is a law that requires them to make accommodations up to
minimum standard,
undue.
undue hardship, yeah.
Thank you.
But which
Too
is
many
all
buzzwords in my head,
well, for all intents and purposes, that undue hardship is a minimum standard when you think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, furthermore, talking about that entry into a building, you're also allowing more customers into that building when you
Of
create
course, of course.
the
Yes.
accessibility. So not only are you allowing the employment of people with different disabilities that have their own autonomy, because we've used
Yeah.
that word a lot,
Yeah.
and their own way in and independence and dignity to find that way into your building, but you also allow them to be employed, you allow them to be a customer, and that impacts your bottom line. I can certainly understand that the return on investment may be forthcoming down the road, but people want to see their bottom lines increase faster. But like people like you and I who have been waiting for accessibility, it goes
Yeah.
at a snail's pace.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there have been times where, like, I've dealt with so many different health issues over the last 18 years. Oh my gosh. Yeah, since my youngest two were born. Most of my health issues started around that time frame. And when I think about their age, it's like, oh God, yes, I'm gonna have all of my kids. I have 17 months till all of my kids are adults. I have four.
there you go.
Oh my gosh, yes. 2 weeks from now, my second youngest turns 19 and can drink anywhere in Canada. She's reminded
Wow.
me many times.
Well, let's raise a glass for them.
Exactly. I raise a glass of cheer. Where was I going with this? When I've been dealing with health issues off and on over the last 18 years. And there was a time where I was heavily into, I was an IT guy. I was really high skilled, whether it was administration, helping people understand systems, fixing systems, solving problems. But I was having a lot of problems with my back, a lot of problems with just so much pain. I could do the work, but there was a couple days I needed to stay home, and I was able to log in and totally take care of everything that people asked me to do. But I got fired from that because they needed me inside at my desk in case they needed to talk to me. When I was in my desk, how many times did they come to talk to me about something rather than email me or call me? Like maybe once in the 2 weeks that I was there. The insistence that I be in physically didn't match what the job actually needed. And, it was the first time that I experienced this massive, like, I asked for an accommodation. I disclosed what I was going through, and it was rejected. I should have fought that, but it was not a thing. But this is the fear that a lot of us have. We've had experiences where we've said, "Hey, we need this," and they say, They either say, "I don't really think you do," or it's like, "But if I did that for you, I'd have to do that for everyone." Well, this is the point that I want to make. So why not do it for everyone? If it's going to improve the lives of employees to do the work that they need, why not make the accommodation? It is when you make things easier for your employees, you have more efficient employees, which are going to make you money, save you time. But when you put barriers, you're actually creating a cost because those employees will be less efficient. Eventually, you may need to let them go, and you're going to need to hire somebody up and do the whole training. The cost of employees, the highest cost is at the beginning of their working and at the end. So you're going to take this double cost time of trying to bring somebody in while you're getting rid of somebody. But if you had just allowed the accommodation, you would have saved money doubly, right? Because you save money by not having to hire somebody in the future, and you're having an employee who's efficient, who's probably going to be loyal. That's my experience. Every place that provides me accommodations, I tend to be way more loyal to because they're, just doing a little bit for me is a lot.
And I just want to make a point quickly before we conclude this short here for employment. I actually made that request myself, Maddy, in 2017. I'm not going to disclose the employer or anything. I said, would there be opportunities for me to potentially work from home? And long story short, they said no and whatnot. I see that, Maddy. Nice try. Um, and,
What?
and
No
so,
civil message here whatsoever.
So in 2017, I made that request. I was going through a hard time personally, and I thought doing my job, which inevitably fast forward to the pandemic, that we have to work from home, would have made my life a lot easier, and it's made my life a lot easier working from home. But we just weren't at that threshold yet
Yeah.
in 2017, and it just feels like there's a lot of important information that people with disabilities know and trying to get out. It's trying to meet the way the world is going, I find. So it's frustrating, but yet I don't want to keep back with the whole "I told you so, I told you so, I told you so," but it's frustrating.
I think the AODA should, going forward, enforce the ability for people to work from home as an accommodation. But let's entrench this because we realize we can do it because of the pandemic, and now we need to enforce it as a possibility going forward.
100%. That's got to be.
Many of us have been calling it for decades for this ability. Technology is allowing us to do this, so hey.
And that can't be a restriction. Hey, Maddy, let's cut this one here. Thanks a lot for listening and joining us. We will be back with day 3. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Together